Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
Check. What up, world? It's the man with the plan, Brian AKA BroFit, the King of Hearts, and you are now tuned into Clocking Out, the podcast you listen to when you need to get motivated and inspired to doing bigger and better things. What is going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Clocking Out. I'm your host, PR, the King of Hearts, and today we are here with Brian AKA BroFit. Brian, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, brother. How you doing today?
So far, so good, man. Can't complain. I'm blessed to see another day. I'm grateful.
Absolutely.
So before we get into some questions and start diving deep into all this fitness stuff, I got inspired to try and dedicate a whole week to some fitness. Everything that you've been doing when you get online, as well as all the things I've been seeing everybody else on social media, posting content related stuff as far as being more active, staying in motion, getting fit. And I want to try to do my part to spread the awareness. And I had a guest speaker on Monday who was a power lifter by the name of Colton, who came on, and he shared a little bit about himself and his experience in the world of bodybuilding and powerlifting. Then yesterday we got to talk to Ryan Turner from V-Dads, also from Food is Fuel. And he gave us a little bit of information from his point of view on things regarding protein and carbs and fats and, you know, just a whole bunch of things as far as dieting when it comes to staying fit and making sure we're going about it properly. And I figure when it comes to exercising and, you know, getting some proper workouts done, there's no one better than to talk to you, BroFit. Every morning you're on here, you're doing your thing, and you're doing live streams and doing exercises, motivating people to get out their cars in the middle of the street and start, doing some push-ups. And so I was like, you know what, this is the best time to have you come on and get us to know more about you, your profession, and just see what your perspective is on this whole world of fitness. So without further ado, BroFit, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what inspired you to get fit.
Well, first off, thank you first and foremost for having me here on the show. I appreciate it. And just to touch base, hopefully I can inspire other people to get out of their cars as well and do some push-ups as well. I know that we joked a little bit about just some magic that you were able to spark by just getting out of your car and doing some push-ups, and that kind of motivated and inspired a few other people within the community to start moving and grooving. So I appreciate that. That was awesome. And that's kind of what this is all about, is feeding off of each other. And but we'll get to kind of what I'm doing now, but I'll give you a little bit brief history about who I am and a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I went to BroFit College Preparatory, so an all-boys Catholic high school, and played a few sports there. Eventually ended up going to U of A, playing volleyball at the University of Arizona for about a year and a half, and then transferred over to ASU, finished my college career off at Arizona State University as a volleyball player. Since then, I got into strength and conditioning real quickly. I've always enjoyed sports. I've always enjoyed athletics. I've always enjoyed the human body and how it works and the mechanics behind it. So it was really easy for me just to kind of jump right into personal training as a profession. And I never really anticipated it. I never expected it. I started off as a philosophy major in college and just went to college to play volleyball. And what do you know? My best friend said, "Hey, there's some place that's hiring, and you should go take a look." 20 years later, I've worked in the fitness industry for 20 years now, and I've loved every minute of it. I've done everything from working with adults and body composition change and gaining weight, losing weight, putting on muscle mass, getting ready for competitions or sports and athletics. I vaguely moved and lived in Norway for about a year, and was a strength and conditioning coach out there, and worked with just in another country. It was wild. After that, got into CrossFit and started lifting weights on my own, started getting back in the whole athletics side of things while I was coaching and while I was training, and slowly led me into working with kids. When I got into the CrossFit world, it was a tight-knit community, and the tight-knit community I fell in love with and fed off of, and the competition and the camaraderie and the accountability and the structure, and Just all of it. I missed having some sort of team-based system, and so there CrossFit was for me. During the CrossFit years, unfortunately, my brother got sick and passed away about 10 years ago of colon cancer. And at that moment, it was real quick, and it was obvious what I had to do. I had an opportunity for 30 years to have a brother in my life that I could look up to, I could ask questions to, he was a mentor. He was somebody, an outlet, an older brother, somebody that you can almost live vicariously through, so that you see their mistakes and start to channel what you want to do. And I was lucky. I wanted to turn the most negative situation that I had ever experienced in my life into the most positive. And the only way I knew how to do that was through fitness. There was no other way but to move. I couldn't figure out not how to move. Literally, I think it was within an hour of my brother's death, within an hour of seeing my brother's dead body, I was hiking on a mountain with my uncle. And now that sounds kind of crazy, like why the hell would he go work out? But my uncle actually grabbed me and pulled me and took me, and we started going to hike. And it was kind of a forced thing on his nature to get me away, I think, for my parents to deal with the situation. But what I'm getting at is that movement has always been a part of me, and it's always been an outlet. And it was a really, really easy way for me to deal with the shittiest situation that I had ever faced. And so from right there and then I said, you know what? I need to work with kids. I had the older brother. I want to be that older brother. I had coaches when I grew up. I had people that I could look up to and mentors, whether they were my high school coach, Tony Oldaney. I remember sophomore year making this team and just having this weird Graham scheme of like this picture, right? Like here I am, a basketball player being pulled into the volleyball scene. And then I see how he works his team, how he coaches his team, how he talks to his players. And then his wife's also an assistant coach. And she was an attractive lady and she was a volleyball player. And I just remember being at like 15, 16 years old, being like, that's awesome. Like, I want that. I want that. Like, I want to have, like, me and my wife could be doing our thing, or just, I want to have that impact on kids where it's like a team thing, whatever it was. Like, I've always had some sort of something like that down the road. And so I wanted to be able to give that back to kids. And I know now life is more difficult probably than it's ever been for kids, for teenagers growing up. I can't imagine it with social media and whatnot. We didn't have all the crazy social media. Like, we had maybe some AOL instant messenger, and it took like 5, 6, 7 minutes to gear it up and get on there. And you couldn't even see the person. You just had to base it off of pictures and talking and stuff. So it's just a different world now. And I wanted to be open, completely wide open about who I am, the experiences that I'd faced, the troubles, and I wanted to be able to relate to these kids in some way, some shape and form, and to say, hey, you're going to make mistakes and it's okay. Like, here I am, and you see all these nice things maybe, but what you don't see is the problems. And that's what I got to work with and deal with at that situation, was to work with the nit and gritty and start getting into the nit and gritty and start figuring out that this is more than just for the physical. This is for the mental. This is for the person that we believe we can potentially be. Right? There's a bigger metaphor for working out and doing burpees and doing push-ups, like out of your car. Like, I was excited that you did push-ups, but you remember my comment that I made after I saw your video that you posted. The thing that made me happiest and that brought the happiness and joy in my life was seeing your smile. Literally within 5 to 10 seconds after doing your push-ups and getting in the car, and there it is again. And it was pure joy, brother. And so to me, that's what I feed off of. And that's the stuff that I could impact. And the feeling that you're getting right now for just being proud of that, or remembering that moment, or going through it, or whatever, if you can get that in micro doses throughout the week, that feeling, and have a place that you can go to that is a tangible spot, that physical place that you can go connect with people that will make you start thinking outside the box a little bit. and challenging you and holding you accountable and making you honestly not do the things you want to do, but making you do the things that you need to do. And by doing those on a consistent basis, we start to change and we start to find out really who we are deep down inside, you know? So that was BroFit. That's really honestly who I am, and that's who my heart is deep down inside. Since COVID happened, we unfortunately had to shut down our 4,300 square foot facility. And I started getting into coaching volleyball here locally, just with club teams and high school teams. And I wanted to figure out an outlet to continue to work with kids and still have an impact and not give up on the whole BroFit idea. But I couldn't do it in here in my home gym. I'm not inviting 15-year-old girls over to my house to train. It's just not right. It's not in the world. I'm not doing that stuff, right? But it wasn't working out. As a full-time stay-at-home father, with my wife being a firefighter, my time and place and purpose is here at home with my kids, making sure that the things are taken care of at the house. And so, man, the last 5-6 years have been kind of crazy, you know, trying to figure things out and trying to reinvent myself, or maybe not reinventing myself. And that's, you talked with Brian Turner yesterday. My first initial podcast session or live stream ever was with Ryan Turner, and he kind of got me talking and thinking and experiencing this whole story of mine. And the very next day, I actually have it hanging up right now. The very next day, I had to bring this back in because it's just the dates of when my brother lived, and it's a picture of him and I. And it's a tough reminder. You can hear it in my voice right now. It screws with me emotionally, but it's still there. The idea can still be there. It just may not be applied to 15, 16, 17-year-old kids anymore. And I think that you've experienced this just as much as I have, going through with different live streams and talking to people on through different podcasts, is that especially as we get older, we're experiencing some of those things, if not more, as adults and as parents and as significant others and as business owners. Figure it all out. Right? We're all still trying to figure this thing out. And my challenge about almost a year ago now was to bring BroFit back. And BroFit is not been what it once was, but it's surviving. I wouldn't say it's thriving. I've got about 3 or 4 clients that I work with here on a regular basis, like once a week, that can work with my schedule, and that's awesome. It keeps my excitement for movement alive. It keeps my ability to think, and for me to be on my toes, and for me to be creative with movement. With all that, this is probably the part that I don't enjoy. Right? I've got one client that I work with like this, and it's just not as personable. I'm not able to fix their mechanics. I'm not able to see their emotions as clearly or their body language as much. I'm not able to see how they walk into the gym and walk out of the gym. I'm not able to see some of those important things that I think allow me to understand the other individual and what they're trying to accomplish. Right? So here we are. And about 8 months ago, I think, 8 months ago, maybe 6 months ago now, I've been doing a morning live stream called Morning Coffee. And that's just started off with me trying to figure out who I was again. When I came home, I was in a rut. I wasn't working out. I was a full-time stay-at-home dad with no job and not working with kids and not doing my passion and not providing for the family, and just, it was chaos. I lost hope, kind of. I lost the ability to think. I lost the ability to get outside of my bubble and have some sort of positivity floating again. And so I took the hardest thing that's still probably ever happened, and I'm throwing it right back into my life. with keeping myself accountable. How do I keep other people accountable? How do I have expectations of other people? How do I love others if I don't have that same standard for myself? How can I expect people to change when here I am in a complete fucking disarray? Like I'm in shambles. People see, the nice putaways, weights and me working out and doing all that stuff, but they don't know what's going on in here and they don't see what's going on outside these hours.
100%.
But in order for me to legitimately look at somebody in the eyes and say, you need to start making some of these changes, or here are some of the things that you can do to start making changes, I needed to make those changes. I was talking the talk, but I wasn't walking the walk, right? I was that coach that I used to make fun of, that hypothetical coach that I used to make fun of that would be on the sidelines at 300-400 pounds, telling other kids how to hustle and what to do and what not. I looked at them going, man, you're talking the talk, but you can't walk the walk. I was talking the talk and might have visually looked like I could walk the walk, but I wasn't. I wasn't eating right. I wasn't working out. I wasn't taking care of my mind. I wasn't taking care of my body. I wasn't sleeping correctly. And it was affecting my life. It was affecting my relationship. It was affecting my communication I had with my wife. It affected everything. So 8 months ago, I made this decision that, hey, 6 months ago, whatever it was, 8 months ago, hey, I got to make these changes. It started off with Ryan Turner's discussion and me starting to move along on my own with nobody seeing. And I said, no, if I'm going to do this, this is the only way people are connecting now. And this is the only way that I'm going to be able to connect in front of the mass audiences right now out of the luxury of my home is through live stream. And so I need to get comfortable with it. Let's do the uncomfortable all over again. And that's kind of what this whole thing is getting comfortable with the uncomfortable and doing it all over again and trying to figure out what the outlet of success is. So 8 months ago, we start with that morning coffee routine and we do what seems simple. We pick 2 to 4 exercises and we do a total of 100 repetitions. We pick something small that we know we can stay accountable to, and we try to do it every single day. And we did that for about 2-3 months. We did excellent, maybe 4 months. And then after that, the 100 repetitions started turning into 100 plus repetitions, or 100 repetitions plus a workout, or a warm up, 100 repetitions and a workout. Or I just came in and started working out and I knew I got over 100 repetitions. And that transitioned into a program that we started doing about 6 weeks ago. And that was all based off of functional movements, bodybuilding, right? Squatting, deadlifting, pressing and pulling, putting on some weight, putting on some muscle, feeling like we don't only have the mechanics to do something, not only we have the engine to move, not only do we feel good moving, not only have we committed ourselves to staying consistent in moving, but we're going to start prioritizing. We're actually going to start making a plan. We're going to make a plan of attack and stick to that plan of attack. We're going to take a program. We're going to stick to that program. We're going to have a specific goal. And I did that for 5 weeks. I say 5 weeks because I almost chopped off my finger with a chainsaw about 3 weeks ago, but it's healed now, so we're good to go. And now we're on to a different programming. But my point is of all this story, and I know I've been talking for a while, is that we need to make steps. We need to have some sort of goal and prioritize something and get uncomfortable with the uncomfortable.
I totally agree with you. I think that we got to do that. We got to start. It's like you're saying, you're not the only one. And I think the only thing that separates people like you, myself, and others, I myself caught myself doing that also, in the sense that I was like faking the funk, and I felt like I was doing more to keep up with the image of making it seem like I was doing what I said I was going to do, or I was the person I thought I was, or I was as successful as I thought I was, or I would like to be, or I was trying to get people to believe I was. And it just gets to a point that you start realizing that there's nothing positive going on, and there's nothing new going on. There's no movement, there's no progression, there's no evolving and growing. There's like, you just feel like you get to a point where you just start feeling like you're hitting repeat, and then you start really thinking about things, like especially if you're a parent, you think about your kids, you think about legacy, you think about setting an example, you think about all the things that you've sacrificed and if it was worth it, the times that you weren't able to be there for your kids for certain things, or the times you couldn't afford certain things, and you start analyzing every decision you've ever made, every situation you've ever been on, and you start questioning if, what was it for? You know, am I really doing what I'm supposed to be doing to be the person that I know I'm supposed to be? Am I gonna be living the life that I want? It's like you mentioned, you know, when you were younger, you saw your coach and you saw these people having something special, and it gave you an example of something that was possible, something that you can have, something that was related to what you had an interest in. You know what I mean? It's me myself, and I think of things like that too. Like, I really like this. I don't know what you would call this, creating content, podcasting, live streaming. It's like you mentioned, it's like the new thing. It's the same way that people questioned, you know, chatting online and stuff. Like, this is the new thing of streaming and connecting with people through video chat and DMing and Twitter and X and all these, like, that's what people do now to socialize with each other. And if we don't start utilizing all these things to really just connect with each other and share our story and share our thoughts and ideas and just try to connect with other like-minded people, we're really going to lose our shit. Because I don't really think anything's, it's not like when we were younger where people actually went outside to network, I mean to communicate and hang out with people and talk about the good and the bad and the ugly, and like what's stressing them out, and no one really socializes on that level no more. No one really goes out just to go out and just to have a good time. Everything is, let's go out and let's see if we can get a video or take a picture and post. Like, it's so many things that we're talking about it on VDAS this morning also. Like, there's a limit to where you draw a line of what you're doing and sharing it with people, and things that happen with you in your life that are supposed to be kept for you. And I feel like right now, a lot of things are being done. A lot of things are being said, like people claiming that they want to stay fit, people claiming that they want a better life, people claiming that they want to try and do better and all this stuff. And really, they're still doing the same things that they used to do before. They still have the same repetitive bad habits that they keep repeating, and they're not trying anything, but they just say all this, oh, I want to, or I'm going to, or I would like, and I need, just because it's the thing online. You know, no one really gets to the point where they get to that point in their life where it's like, you know what, I'm really just tired of this not being what I want, or not being happy and not feeling comfortable and not feeling satisfied. You know, and it's so many different things that happen in our lives, and sometimes it takes those things of like reliving those moments, like losing a loved one, or not, or failing at trying to start something new, whether it's learn something new, whether it's trying building something new, whether it's saving up money, whether it's starting a business, whether it's starting a brand, whether it's live streaming, making music, being like, whatever it is. There's so many different things, or even just working out in general. People think that you go and you work out, and being that you didn't look like a supermodel or this bodybuilder or Arnold Schwarzenegger or something like that, that you failed. You had a bad workout, you had a bad diet, you had a bad, like, and it's not always like that. You have to start self-analyzing and start looking at everything that you're going through in your life and tell yourself, you know what, these are my levels of success, and once I reach this, I know I'm going to the next step and the next. And it's like you mentioned, there's so many people that on social media, they just want to make it seem like they're trying, or they would like to. And you're not the only one, man. A lot of us did the whole thing where we were faking the funk, and then we catch ourselves and we're like, yo, what are we doing? And then we start changing, and we like, you know what, let's what would happen if we actually did that? The things that we're claiming we're doing, if we actually woke up early, if we actually focused on this, if we actually put the time and effort to this, like, you start seeing that it may be small little steps, but regardless of what, there's steps nonetheless that are going in a different direction than that same repetitive circle that you've been stuck in. You know what I mean? And it's not easy. It's not easy to break out of that. It's not easy to break out of depression. It's not easy to break out of being in a funk, in a sense of not feeling motivated to do something new, or to get like, I have this thing where I feel like all of us know what we need to do in order to get ourselves out of the situations that we're in, or
Sure.
to better our lives, or to be more happy. We all know exactly what we have to do or what we want. The only thing is that we make it seem like it's impossible to do or start those steps. Nothing is impossible. Yes, they're not easy. Yes, it sucks. And the number one thing that I feel like what everyone agrees on that sucks the most out of all these things, whether it's working out, saving money, starting a business, starting a relationship, staying consistent, it's the thing of being patient. Nobody wants to be patient. Nobody. And the main reason why is because being that we see all these things on social media, it seems like people went from nothing to everything overnight just because of what like they're in control of sharing. Meanwhile, it's like you said, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Everything may look nice. They may not have a nice little, my background looks whatever, but it's a freaking green screen. You know what I mean? Like if anyone really saw what, they'd be like, yo, what the hell is going on? You look like you're in a insane asylum or something, like recording. Like it's things like we are in control of what people can see. But once that we can't hide behind that, it's like we start flipping out and we're like trying to think of ways to hide who we really are, and that shouldn't be that shouldn't be like that shouldn't be the case. Everyone should be happy how they are, and if they're not, they should be taking those steps to get to where they're happy, to get to where they're comfortable of who they are and what they're doing and what their life is turning out to be. But it's I agree with you, man. There's so many of us that get to that point that we just get fed up and we actually start taking those steps, man. And it's not easy, but it's also good when we have other people where we're in a relationship or we have a significant other that's there to support us, that's there who understands and everything like that. It's like you said, like when you saw that couple when you were younger, like it's really great to see when people with either like-minded or similar goals or interests are able to team up and just relate to each other and understand. You know what I mean? I myself, when I do all this stuff, I think like it's really hard for like, I don't tell people about this. Friends and family, I don't let them know that I'm podcasting. I don't let them know that, because I got this thing in my head, like maybe they're not okay with it, or they think it's dumb, and I don't want their feelings or their judgment of it and how they look at it to mess up my way of how I look at it. I don't want to overthink and be like, you know what, I don't want to post today because so-and-so said that it's stupid or corny, and I know they're probably going to be watching. I'm going to overthink. Let me not stream today. Let me not post. Let me not. And it's the same thing. I used to do the same thing with going to the gym. I used to go to the gym and I used to be really, really heavy. And then I lost a lot of weight. So whether it was that I was really heavy and I was embarrassed of being at the gym, whether being on the treadmill or trying to do pull-ups or sit-ups or anything like that, I would be embarrassed because of other people being around. So I would work out like in the shadows alone by myself at the crack of ass in the morning or very late at night when I knew no one was around, even though it really messed up my schedule. But I was that embarrassed that I didn't want to be judged by nobody. You know, right. And it was the same thing when I was too skinny. When I was too skinny, I'm like, what am I doing at the gym? Like, you know, the barbell is bigger than me. Like I can't. So it was all these different things. And at the end of the day, it just got to the point that I did whatever just to avoid any judgment. And I started becoming like a secluse. I started closing myself off from everybody just because of the fact that I was scared of being judged. I was scared of attempting to do anything and someone looking at me and making fun of me or thinking like, yo, this idiot, he doesn't know what he's doing. So it's like
a lot of men do that naturally. A lot of men specifically.
Yes.
We have a tendency to do that. We close things off. We hone everything in. We feel we don't let go of everything. We internalize everything, and we kind of just get stuck in our own heads and figure out that we can do it on our own.
Yes.
And that's kind of the biggest thing that I want to express to other people is that you don't have to do this on your own. Is that, in fact, I don't challenge you to do it on your own. You should go out and find somebody else to help guide you and get you through those steps of motivation. Because perfect example, about 3 years ago, I got into like a little boot camp around the corner. It was 30 minutes, and it was every morning as I dropped off my son for school. And I drop him off at school, and right across the street was this 30-minute boot camp, and just challenged me to move. It wasn't really anything crazy. It wasn't anything complex. I was working out with Mr. and Mrs. Jones, who were like 60, 65 years old, and I could bring my little girl in there when she was born and, you know, like jump up and down with her and whatnot. But here's what it did. The first week it kicked my ass because I wasn't in shape. It was another one of those, it was right after the business shut down and I had like a year off, didn't work out. And then here we go. Let's start getting back into this whole groove thing. And it kept me accountable. It kept me motivated. It kept me in a community of people who are like-minded, going through the same challenges, going through the same experiences, who are waking up, facing some of the common themes throughout the day. And we were able to just outlet and feedback different ideas. And now me being in the fitness industry for 15, 16 years prior to that, I had knowledge and wanted to give it out. And feeling a place where I could give some of that knowledge and people were receptive to it, it made me feel warm and accepting, and I could start to then get along with the coaches, and it was almost as if I was working there and training there all at the same time. So it was really, really kind of fun. But the point is find yourself a community that you can go work out with. Find somebody that you can stay accountable. If that's a workout buddy, hey, if I don't show up at the gym at 5 o'clock, Tony's going to kick my ass. Like, he's just like, he's not going to hang out with me on Friday, and I want to go hang out with my buddy on Friday, like whatever it is. Or if it's, hey, I'm going to go after my 9 to 5, me and the girlfriend and our fiance and our wife, we're going to go work out. And, or that's going to be the first thing we do in the morning before we go to work, or whatever it is, finding somebody. It could be a CrossFit community. It could be Ep.40, whatever. Like, it could be hanging out with me every single morning. I know that one of our V-Friends community members, MP, hangs out with me on Fridays now. And he just had a baby like 2 weeks ago. His wife just had a baby, like 2 weeks ago. And he's still jumping up on Fridays working out with me. So my point is that there's so many opportunities and places that to me, there's no excuse, but I understand how people do have the excuse and why they push it off. And I'm not in the same place as everybody else. I don't have the same job as everybody else. I don't have the same timeline as everybody else. You know, we all, I think one of the things that I picked up from your podcast and yesterday with Ryan was that, and he speaks really, really well about this and reminding people that we're looking for an answer. Like, they use like how many grams of protein, right? He goes, well, it depends on who you are and what your goal is, right? What kind of preconditions do you have? What pre-existing conditions do you have? Why are we doing these certain things? What have you been doing prior to this? You know, like, there's lots and lots of questions that can be evolved into, whether it's nutrition or if it's the recovery aspect or if it's the working out aspect. So to me, it's a great metaphor for just figuring out you and your life and taking control over it and getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. Because once you get comfortable with it, you know this as a dad, once you get comfortable with it, it changes. You're like, man, I got this diaper thing down. And then all of a sudden they're like, no, well, I'm not going to run around. I don't want a diaper anymore. I'm going to go piss in the
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what's going on here. Like, hold on. Okay, well, now we got out of the diapers. We're doing our thing. But, oh, my God, my son will not flush the toilet. Like, you know, whatever it is. There's always something else. There's always another obstacle. It's never going to be perfect, right? And when you do think it's perfect, man, guess what? That's only in the moment. Tomorrow's a coming. And so, to me, again, this is a great place for me to outlet and to think and to challenge myself. Because there ain't no faking this. When you're in the weight room, this barbell that I'm touching right now, this 44-pound barbell is always 44 pounds. It doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about your emotions. It doesn't care about your day. It doesn't care about your recovery. It does not care about your sleep. It doesn't care about what things are going on in your life, how your boss was treating you, how your wife thinks about you, what the kids are acting like. It just doesn't matter. How much money you make, couldn't care less. But it's there, and it's a challenge, and it's set up every single day for you, and you've got a choice whether you pick it up or you don't. And I like that. I've always found working out is kind of like math. There's always an answer. There's a solution for it. How do I get to that solution? Well, I want the easiest, most efficient way. So if I can look at 4 plus 5 and just go, that's 9, I don't want to have to sit there and hash out 4, hash out 5, and then start counting up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like, I want to know the quick, easy way. And so that's how I apply things in my workouts. I want to be efficient. I want to be effective. I want to get the best bang for my buck. Personally, that's just me. For my clients, it depends on what their goals are. Some people just want to come hang out with me because they're lonely and they just like somebody to tell them what to do. I got other people because they're like, man, I'm going to be turning 42 and I'm going to be, traveling to, Ireland to go play golf, or Scotland or something like that. Like, cool. Like, I have another 26-year-old client who just got done with college volleyball and used to work with me when she was in high school, and she's like, now what do I do? Like, I'm an adult now. Like, I don't have that team camaraderie. I don't have that structure. Now that I'm out on my own, what do I do? Right. And so it always goes back to, who's the individual? What are you trying to accomplish? What have you been doing? There's a lot of factors into it, but ultimately move, do something.
And what I want to ask you related to all that, because whether it's having someone, like you said, like a gym partner or something, just someone to hold you accountable for things and to help keep you motivated and focused. Because I strongly believe in that. I think, yes, I'm a strong believer that we can all manage to do things ourselves. Like I mentioned earlier, I believe all of us know exactly what we have to do in order to start progressing in towards the person that we want to be, or the goals that we would like to achieve. Like, we know the steps that we need to take to do that. But I also believe that it's also really good to do it with a community, to do it with somebody to help you along the way, and to join you on the journey. You know, whether you're doing it online through streaming, or whether you're sharing it through videos or posts or whatever, or whether you just have a friend that goes with you, like you said, and that gives you that kick that you need to be like, yo, we're going today, you know. Because we all, every once in a while, we all come across that thing, whether it's going to work or dealing with our daily duties as a parent, or just as a regular human being and getting up and just dealing with life. We all have those days where we're like, yo, not today. Like, I just can't, not today. I don't want to. And it's really not that we can't. And it's not that we're not able. It's just we lack that thing, that push that we need. And all we need is that one person to be like, yo, it's going to be all right. Don't worry. Let's get up. Let's take it one step at a time. And let's just keep it moving. And then little do you know, halfway through it, you're like, you know what, it isn't that bad. Let me just keep going and get this over with. You know what I mean? And you notice that when you start doing that with anything else, as soon as you do it once, you know, the first time, yes, it's hell. The second time, it's not that bad. The third time, it's like, and then after that, it's like, you notice you don't even have that thing of even hesitating to get up and get moving, because you already broke through that habit of being lazy and having that repetitiveness, you know. But what I wanted to ask you related to everything that you mentioned, because it's true. I do believe that going to the gym, it makes you feel good, not only physically, but there's like a mental thing about it that really gives you a clear head. And what I wanted to ask you is, how do you believe fitness has impacted your mental health? Or have there been any specific instances where exercise has helped you cope with challenges or stress?
Yeah, definitely. I think fitness has always been a foundation for me. I was a very kind of, like I say, lonesome kid. I lived really far away from school, so I didn't have a lot of buddies to hang out with. So I hung out with the teams that I played with, or I'd hang out outside moving around. So in high school, I started working with a trainer. His name was Mac Newton. I say was, unfortunately, he passed away a few weeks ago. And I talked quite briefly about him, but Mac Newton had a Taekwondo dojo here in fitness studio in town, and had a conditioning class. And we'd walk into the studio, and it would be that old school carpet. Everybody remembers that old school carpet. You'd be in class, you could take the eraser and rub it on the ground and stuff like that. You could spill anything on that old school carpet. It just was what it was. And that's what he had. And it was an old studio, and he had no machines, no weights. It was about 100, 110 degrees inside the studio with a couple fans spinning up top. Nobody could wear their shoes, and it was all conditioning. It was about 30 minutes of stretching and 30 minutes of just go, go, go. And I'll tell you what, when you're stuck with your mind for a long, consistent period of time, and you do it frequently, and you're forced to fail, and you're forced to be in positions that you don't want to be, and you're continuously taught, and you're continuously teaching yourself that A, I can do it. B, when I think I'm done, I'm probably only about halfway. And C, if I get really good at this and I'm uncomfortable, I can only imagine what the other person feels like. And I use that as an athlete. And I use that as an athlete full-heartedly throughout high school and in college, because I knew, in majority of the time, I thought I was a better athlete than the other person. Say in basketball, I had to guard somebody. I assumed I was a better athlete than that person. And if I wasn't, I assumed I was smarter than that person. And if I wasn't, I knew without a question of doubt that I was in better shape than that individual. And that when I got to a place of doubt and struggle and pain and suffering and I don't want to do this, that guy was hurting 10 times more. And I just had to push. I just had to go a little bit faster, or I had to go a little bit harder. So for me, it was a mindset of, I can go do anything I want to do. It's just a matter of telling myself I'm going to go do this and not allowing myself to tell myself that I'm going to fail, or that I'm failing, or that it's okay to fail. Like, if you have, for example, if you have 10 minutes of mountain climbers, you're going to fail. The question is what do you do during the time of failure? What's going on in here? And when you have a lot of time to spend and there's no escape and there's no way out, and you're looking over and Mrs. Jones, 75 years old, and she's just trucking, doing her thing, and you're like dying over here in a corner and you don't know what's going on, you've got one of two choices: give up or keep moving. And then unfortunately in that situation with Mac's class, there was no giving up, because he'd be on your ass. And this was a 9th degree black belt that was, had some, he had quite a frame on him, and he meant business. So when you went in there, you yes sir, no sir. You didn't call him Mac. It was yes sir, no sir, and you did your thing. But it got me mentally tough. So I think I took a lot of that into college, and I applied that into things that I did in life. And whether that was going back to college and graduating after taking 3 or 4 years off, or if that was moving to Norway with a one-way ticket and about $400 in my pocket, and 2 job interviews, whether that was starting up a business after my brother passed, like, it just, you know what I mean? Like, to me, it's a stepping stone for everything else in life. We figure out who we are in here.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you next. Like, with all the things that you've been doing, whether it's just personal development and lessons that you learned yourself through your own, by realizing your own mistakes, excuse me, and learning from them and improving on yourself from the people that you've met that were just older or had more experience than you, and were able to pass on, knowledge to you and everything. It's like you said, all the knowledge you learned and you wanted to pass it down. What are some of the most valuable lessons you've learned through your fitness journey, and have these lessons shaped you, and how have these lessons shaped you as a person?
Man, that's a tough question, because you leave me in a really, really vulnerable position of explaining stuff I don't choose to, but because I don't believe it defines who I am. However, I think a lot of what we are is like how we go through our struggles. And let me explain this in a different way. I was a freshman in college at the University of Arizona. We just won a national title, volleyball, national champion freshman year. Awesome. Got into some trouble, started doing some things, made some bad decisions, lost about 35, 45 pounds of pure muscle, and went out that summer into my sophomore year for a run. And I remembered my muscles had atrophied so badly that I couldn't physically run. And I broke down right there in the middle of the road crying, bawling, 165 pounds. I'm 210 right now. Just bawling and going, I've made some shitty decisions. And I picked up the phone, I called my parents, I let them know what happened. And next day, there's U-Haul trucks staying out front with both my folks standing out front. And we packed up my shit and we went home. I partied so much that I lost relationships with best friends, with family members, with teammates. I lost it all. So I'd gone from what I thought was like a peak. Like, here I am, 18 years old, winning a national title, being in college, got a girlfriend, to no girlfriend, no best friend, living at home with your parents, feeling like you're an addict, kind of physically learned how to move all over again. And I had to teach myself how to run. I had to teach myself how to lift. I had to gain all that weight back. I had to go through a process of both mental and physical just to get back to a place that I felt was normal. And then I started working harder, and that's when I transitioned and went over to university, or Arizona State University, and I finished my college career off there. But it was a lot of shit, and it was a lot of struggle, and it was a lot of learning about me physically and mentally. So I can relate to the person who is 300 pounds that doesn't feel like they can move, or was one place in their life and it was not there anymore, or they don't have the capacity to focus on the things that they want to do, but all they can do is focus on taking a step, maybe an inch off the ground, and just doing it over and over and over again until they're capable of doing something more. And so this became even a bigger outlet than just the whole partying scene and whatnot. So to me, fitness has a huge impact. It's very emotional to me. Because of all the different stages that I've had with it, whether it's been just fun in general with sports, or whether it was fighting through my own battles, or whether it was fighting through my brother's battles, or hell, it's even saved my father's life. My old trainer, Mac Newton, my father trained with him for 20 years and was probably his best friend. In fact, he's still taking care of all of his death stuff now to this very day. And he's helping out situate everything. But my point is that Max saved my father's life probably 18 years ago. I was 16 years old. I was at the doctor's office and I got a phone call. My brother goes, "Hey, your dad's in the hospital. He had a heart attack." Long story short, he had a 100% clogged artery. The main valve in his heart was 100% clogged. They call that the widowmaker, by the way, because it's clogged. They said, "John, you're going into surgery right now." They went into surgery. They put 2 stents in there. They looked at him and said, "You need to go thank your trainer, because your nutrition, your diet that you've been on for the last year or two, and your fitness regimen saved your life. Your other arteries had built up so strong that they were able to overcompensate that main valve that was shut." So consistently, fitness has been a very emotional outlet for me, whether it's coping with my brother's death, or if it's dealing with my own shit, whether it's trying to be the best parent that I can be, whether it's just dealing with the realities of being a stay-at-home father and fighting the societal norm of being a stay-at-home father who's not necessarily providing financially. Right? So I think we can win in different areas of our life. But if I'm not winning in here, and if I'm not winning in here personally, doesn't matter. All this is fluff. All this is gone anyways. We're not taking it with us. I can pass some of it along, but it's going to probably be destroyed by that time anyways. But hopefully what I can pass on is a little bit of this and a little bit of this and whatever comes out of my mouth. And I know for certain that if this thinks better, this believes better, and this trusts more, then this is going to be more powerful for my kids, for my wife, people around me.
And I love that. And you could tell, man, you can tell from the way you speak about things, the way you share your experiences, and you could tell you're passionate about it and you actually care about it. It's not something that you're looking to benefit or profit from or nothing. You honestly, from the way you speak, the way you do your lives, it's what got me to want to keep showing up every day. It's really addicting. It's rare to have someone be as positive or motivating and supportive as you are. You know what I mean? It's, to some people it may seem weird to talk to people online and use social media to try and get that into your life, you know, especially if you're not surrounded by it in any way. And I'm one of those people. It's not that my life is horrible, but I feel like I don't surround myself with the proper energy or content or people or whatever it is you want to look at it as, that gives me that sense of motivation or that encouragement or that hope that I'm good enough, and that confidence, and you know what I mean. So when I see people like you and you share your story and you show like what you're doing to push through and everything, like a lot of us always think that we have it bad until we meet someone else who's been through worse.
Mm.
And that's what I feel like has really been opening my eyes lately. The more conversations I have, the more streams that I jump on, the more people that I start following up with, and looking at their accounts and what they share and everything, you
That's
start realizing that there's a lot of things that you don't know that have happened, that people don't put up and don't pin, or whatever it is that you want to look at it as. Like, they make it that noticeable, they put it in your face, but they've been through something, and then they're just really, really good because they've been adapting to it so much and for so long that they're used to just making it seem like it's nothing. You know, whether it's a death in the family, whether it's going through hardship with someone, whether it's financial problems, like there's so many people that have become so numb to all these things happening consistently to them that they just look at it like, you know what, this is just life, this is the way it is. And it's not. You know what I mean? So when I see people such as yourself that have been through a lot of things, and you're just showing that, you know, regardless of whatever's going on, I still have hope, I'm still happy, I'm still finding ways to do what I love and have passion for, and I want to make sure that people can do the same thing. You know what I mean? You're sharing, you're not sitting there telling them, look, this is the one and only choice that you have, but you're letting people know that, you know, this is one of the things that I did, and this is what helped me, and maybe it'll help you. And if not, you're still there, willing to listen, willing to talk, willing to share, willing to give your time. And it's just a combination of all that stuff goes to show who you are as a person. And it's something that I feel right now in the world we don't have enough of. You know what I mean? I believe that it's out there, but I don't think that we're talking about it enough. I don't think that we see it enough. I don't think that we're speaking about it loudly enough. You know, it's like those things that being nice and caring and just compassionate and you know, vulnerable, it's one of those things that people sweep under the rug because it's not as great or as attention seeking in the sense for social media, where you can just basically say anything just to get people to be like, look, I'm going to talk bad about this person, or let's go on the whole thing about left and right and wrong and right and wrong. And a lot of people just need to listen and share about what they're going through their lives. You know what I mean? All of us are going through something. All of us want to share it, and all of us want to get out of it. None of us want to be in a funk forever.
That's
None
right.
of us want to sit there and think about the bad thing continuously. Yes, we get stuck in it and we feel like there's nothing else in it, and we can't clear it out of our minds and we can't get out of it. But sometimes when we share it with other people and we see that other people have been in that situation and that there's ways out of it, that you're not alone, that you don't have to be in the dark all the time. You don't have to feel stressed out, lonely, and sad. Like, everyone goes through some type of form of hardship, and I guarantee you that if you just open up a little bit, communicate and share and be vulnerable, that you'll see that there are other like-minded people that are willing to help you and go through it with you, to share what they did to help them get through that. You know what I mean? Maybe you don't want to do stuff with people, maybe you don't want to share, but at the same time, if you're just willing to listen, if you're willing to just tune in every now and then to people that are willing to share what their methods are to help them get into a better place, you might not know, you'll come up with your own way. Maybe it's not going to the gym, maybe it is streaming, maybe it's reading, maybe it's writing, maybe whatever it is, man. But if you just start looking at people such as yourself and use that as an example to start trying to find your own way to express yourself and just to try and be positive in any way, I think that helps a lot of people. And I'm truly grateful for the stuff that you do, man, because like there's times in the morning it's rough, and I that's why I always tune in. All the stuff that you're saying and then working out and everything, I motivates me. I'm like, yo, I start writing down like the workouts that you do and how many reps you do and all. And I'm like, yo, I gotta do that. Like, he's always looking fit, he's always doing this every day. Like, if I did this every day, if I started 2 months ago, I'd look like this. And I look, you know, so it's little things like that that get me motivated and pumped up. And then the fact that I'm actually able to speak with you and you'll respond back, that's another big thing for me. You know, so many of us go on social media and we see all these other people doing stuff and we hit them up, and we're lucky if we even get a like or a response or any type of acknowledgement, because everyone wants to seem like they're the most busiest person in the world. You know, and at the end of the day, it's just about connecting with people, you know, sharing your story, hearing theirs, and just trying to help one another in some type of way. And the fact that everything that you're doing is just towards that, is just towards to being positive, towards the people finding their own way through things, towards the people just finding some type of answer to whatever it is they're going through, to help them and just let them enjoy their life in some type of way, man. And that's what I love about it, and I feel like the best thing, if people feel good
That's it.
physically, I think like that's the key. That's what's going to start everything else, because no matter how much you want to say this and that, if deep down inside you're feeling shitty, whether you're stressed, depressed, if you're not eating well, if you're sick, whatever, you're not going to be doing things. You're not going to be leading positively out there. Everything is just going to be like a really it's not, I don't think it's going to be real. You know what I mean? And I feel like once people start really acknowledging what they need to get themselves to feel good, to look good, to feel good, to sound good, to be happy, to be in a good space like with themselves, I think that's going to make everything that they do for anyone else even 10 times more better or effective. Or I think that we need to surround ourselves with more people like that. So the fact that you're being vulnerable and you're sharing all these things and you're not letting it be an excuse to close off from the world, and you're using it more as an excuse to give and to grow and to connect, that's something that I really like that you're doing.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for all the kind words. I've been writing a few things down as you're talking, and I'm sitting going, well, you know what the alternative is? Like, we talk about the things that we're, moving and doing this and doing that and trying to battle all this, but what we don't talk about is the alternative. And I'll tell you what the alternative is, because I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, right? And I wrote down here, like, the alternative is my food quality sucks and it's impacting me and my family. The alternative is that my sleep is really shitty, and now I'm getting angry in the morning and it's affecting all my decision making throughout the day, and how I feel, how I look, how I think other people may feel about how I feel or look. And we're not perfect. You bring up a great part. We're not perfect. None of us are perfect. I don't bring any of this up or to do any of this to show any of my perfection. In fact, I probably should talk more about the imperfections of it. What I don't talk about the imperfections is because it doesn't define me, right? Like, I don't need to talk about the mistakes that I made in college, but the story can relate to somebody. Right? I don't need to talk about how I quit drinking alcohol almost 2 years ago, or how I quit chewing tobacco 2.5 years ago, and how I did that for 15, 20, 25 years or whatever since I was 16 years old. Right? So I may be working out during those times, doesn't mean I'm doing all the healthiest decisions all the way through. Right? And we have to figure out what works best for us. I quit chewing because it was, every time I chewed, I thought about my brother, because my brother chewed, and it was a thing that I had a connection with him, and it just wasn't. It was affecting me. It was affecting my wife. She didn't like it. She didn't want to kiss me anymore. So I was like, okay, cool. I need to get rid of this and done. Alcohol. That's the alternative of not working out and taking care of your body and sleeping well and moving around, is letting this go to an angry place and trying to deal with it and cope with it in other ways. What's your coping mechanism is what I wrote down here. I used to drink a ton, and by a ton, I mean, like, I'd go through like a fifth every 3 days of Jack Daniels and Coke. I have like three, like a couple triples a night, and doesn't seem like a big deal if we were thinking about it, like, oh, I'm gonna have like a drink when I'm gonna, let's say I'm gonna have a drink while I'm cooking dinner, because I'm the stay-at-home dad, right? And then I'll have a drink during dinner, and then maybe I'll have a drink after dinner. But that started screwing with me mentally, and I started having more of it really messed with me mentally. My mental health was going downhill. I started thinking about death a lot. I started thinking about my brother a lot. I wasn't working out. I wasn't taking care of my body. I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't eating well. It was getting to a place where it was just too much, and it was just yucky, right? So my point is that we have choices to make, and they're going to make us feel a certain way. I just know one thing. I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm going to hurt, especially as I get older. I'm going to hurt. I'm going to be sore. I'm going to have pain. I'm going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to be stiff. But I'd rather have all of those happen because I worked out the day before and I have a feel good soreness, a feel good stiff, a feel good whatever, rather than oh shit, I'm just getting older. And we're going to get broken down. We're going to be used, whether, but just how do we look at the situation? How do we deal with certain things? This is how I deal with it. This is how I have to deal with it. It's the only way I know how to deal with it, because the other way is too destructive. It's too mentally destructive. It's too physically destructive. It's too literally destructive. I mean, I literally will self-sabotage. You're killing yourself slowly. And I couldn't deal with that anymore. I just couldn't live with myself doing that anymore. I can't go down that road anymore, whether it was pity or sorrow or, just feeling whatever emotion, not control as the parent.
I agree with you. I've dealt with similar things too, and my coping thing was smoking. I used to smoke weed like crazy, and now I still do like once in a blue, like rarely. And before I did it every time, because I co-parent with my kids, and that's the number one thing that kills me is, and I blame myself for it. I split up with their mom. She was unfaithful. She went and did whatever she did, but I always blame myself because it was my first kid. I come from an old school family where, like, the father does everything, doesn't let the mother or the female pay for nothing, like so I wanted to do that, but it's hard. Just like you can imagine, and anyone else, it's not that easy to do that nowadays. It's not easy for one person to provide for an entire family. It's not easy for one person to provide for themselves nowadays. And I tried my best in doing that. I was working nonstop. I became a workaholic, and I was literally working from 5 in the morning to 11 at night, 6 days a week, every day. And it got to the point where in my head I was coming up with excuses where, like, it's okay. I don't need to socialize with no one. I'm working. It's okay. I don't need to see my newborn daughter, first steps and all this because I'm working. I'm doing what I'm supposed to. I'm a man. This is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be okay with not being there for every little newborn moment or every birthday or every, school event. And it, like, everything in my mind was, I'm a man, so it's okay to not do the sentimental, emotional memory type stuff. You got to be a dad, you got to be a father, you got to be a man, you got to go work, and you can't complain. And I did that for so long that I blame myself for the way things turned out because I wasn't being romantic. I wasn't properly dividing my time with my family, my friends. I didn't do that. I stopped talking to people, and I looked at, like, everyone's going to understand. I don't need to explain nothing because I'm working. And when everything went to shit, I realized I don't have nobody because I closed myself off just because I wanted to work for somebody who didn't even really care about me or cared about our situation as much as I did, or looked at it the same way that I did. And I didn't have anything, and then everything went to where it felt almost similar to the fact where I still didn't see my daughter at the time because I only had one kid at the time, um as much as I wanted to because I was still working. But now we were split up. I wasn't there in the morning to see my daughter. I wasn't there at night to put them to go to sleep. And I've mentioned this before, but in my mind it messes me up as a kid. Like, I hate the whole co-parenting thing because as a kid all I remember is waking up in the morning and both my parents were there. Going to sleep at night, both my parents were there. If I woke up in the middle of the night from a bad dream or I was scared of anything, both of my parents were there. So it was hard as hell trying to comprehend and understand what was going through the mind of my daughter and then my son after the fact, that with the same woman. It just, we tried, and then again it didn't work out, and it just got to the point where she didn't know if my son was mine or not. Like, it was that bad. So it's like I kept, all these things were happening, and I don't say it to like badmouth or anything. She's a wonderful mother and everything, but I say it because all these things happened and I kept looking at every situation like I'm doing something wrong. It's my fault. I'm not trying. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve a family. I don't deserve. And it just got to the point that all these things were messing me up, and I just kept blaming myself. And I couldn't comprehend what was going through a kid's head. I don't know what they're thinking of every day that they got to get up and I'm not there, or if they have a bad dream and daddy's not there, or if they're scared and daddy's not there, or to get in a car and drive to daddy's house, or have to get ready to leave to go back home. And then see, all this was messing in my head, and I had no friends because I closed everybody off. I couldn't talk to family or nothing like that. So the only thing I would do was smoke. I'd smoke weed because it would help me have these conversations with myself that made me comfortable with coming up with these excuses to stay in that comfort zone of, okay, I don't have my family no more, but it's still the same thing. I'm still working. I'm still getting the money. I'm paying. I'm making sure they have what they need. So what if I'm not living with them? It was no different before. It was, I just don't sleep there. I'm spending the whole. So it's like, and the only thing that kept making it seem like all this shit was okay was smoking, and it was just tricking me. You know what I mean? And then it got to the point that I was doing, before I would go and find any excuse to go smoke with other people, and then they would encourage all my bad decision making just because we're all smoking. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, don't worry about that. You can just come chill with us anytime that you're feeling upset, and you don't have to go to work. You don't have to look for a new job. This job is good enough, and you don't have to change what you're. So it's like all these things kept revolving around this one thing that I thought was helping me cope with something, and really what it was doing was just crippling me and keeping me in this state of not being able to really look at myself and be like, yo, you're really screwing up. Like, whatever happened before, whether it was your fault or not, at the end of the day, this isn't the way that you go about fixing things. You know, maybe you can't fix the relationship. Maybe you can't change the way someone looks at you and how they feel about you, but you can't change how you treat yourself. You can change, like I said, I didn't look at anything was worth it because I looked at myself based on the way that I was treated, that was it. That was my value. I was good enough to be the person to go work and give money, but I wasn't good enough to be the person to have love and affection and attention, or to be told you're doing a good job, or to be told, like, you know what, you're working too much, you got to take it easy, or to be. I looked at it like it's happened so much that this is just, I'm that guy. I felt like the same way that everyone, like in every story and everything, they have that one dude that really isn't important, but they just need him there to fill space in the movie or the show or whatever. I felt like I was just that dude in the background. And it was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do and go through these motions. Like, I'm supposed to be like the person that people talk about. You know what I mean? Like you mentioned, like you used to make fun of the coaches that used to do this and this, and then you realize you were like that. I used to do the same thing too. And I realized that, yo, I'm that dude. I'm the dude that I make fun of, that girls lie to and cheat on and just like use and take advantage of because they're so simple minded. They don't understand what they're really worth. And then it took me a while to really understand that all these things were just making me feel comfortable with accepting what happened. And once I stopped doing all these things, and once I started cutting things out and started changing the people I was around, and actually started doing the things that I was saying I was going to do or lying about, I started realizing that I was capable of doing things. I was capable of waking up early. I was capable of holding a good job. I was able to be in circles of other people that were more educated than me, or had more money, or had more experience. Like, I didn't need to be embarrassed. I wasn't stupid. I didn't, like, you know what I mean? All these things that all these other people are making me believe in and think that's all I was. I realized that when I started actually trying, that I was capable of things that I didn't even know I was capable of. And that's when it started changing the way that I looked at myself. And I realized the number one problem is that I don't know my own value. And then I started realizing that's a lot of other people's problems. They think they're here and really they're worth this much, but they don't even give themselves that much space to or that much credit, because of the fact of the people that they're around, or the things that they're doing, that they feel like, oh, this is that all they're good enough. This is all you can do. You know what I mean? That drink is the only thing that joy that you get. That's it. That's your limit. There's nothing that's going to cap that. There's nothing that's going to go over that excitement that you get, that buzz that you feel. You know what I mean? And it was the same thing with smoking. It was the same thing with the people I was hanging out with. I felt like there's nothing better than this, smoking and getting high and being around these people telling me I'm the great person ever, just to go home and do it again the next day and the next day and the next. And it just gets to the point that you realize you're just on this plateau type thing, and there's nothing happening. There's no changes. It's not until you start realizing someone else that was doing the same thing with you and they actually stopped hanging out, and then you notice that they're doing better, and then you start questioning, like, what did they do? That you come from where I come from. How did you get there and I can't? And then you start realizing it's just those little things that you cut out, those bad habits that you stop doing, that it's like you said, we have to learn how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because we're all really used to just being comfortable, period, and just staying there and being happy. Once we found the comfort spot, whether it's being with a person that gives us bad habits, being at a job that isn't really that good, or just habits of eating and being lazy, once we get into that motion of doing it, we come up with every excuse to say it's okay, and we don't have to leave that spot, you know?
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I wrote up here on the board, used to mention it just a moment ago about value. And we're all valuable. We all can create value. But how do we value ourselves? Like, how do we, what do we really consider ourselves valuable? And how valuable? Right, and that one hit me because I used to talk to the girls. I'd say the girls, the athletes that I used to work with when I had the BroFit facility, 95% of the kids that I worked with were high school volleyball players, high school female volleyball players, and we would talk about creating value or having standards. Whether it's dealing with boys or having standards as an athlete or standards in the gym for movement quality purposes or whatever, and always having certain standards, basically having value for yourself and valuing yourself more than somebody else's opinion, right? Like, I always loved when the girls came in bawling and some boy broke up with them. I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. Like, we're going to have a great learning moment. This is going to be awesome. Like, get your ass over here. Let's go talk about Tony. Fuck Tony. Let's talk about Tony, right? And they're like, oh my God, I love Tony. Like, let me ask you a quick question. It's like, would you ever want to be with somebody who doesn't want to be with you? And they're like, no. And I was like, then why are you crying about Tony? And they're like,
Exactly.
huh? And right there is like, bam, a light bulb. And I'm like, girl, he did you a favor. He basically told you that he can't hang to your standards. He doesn't have as much value as you. In fact, he doesn't value as much as himself. Like, that he did you a favor. Like, okay, bye, next. Like, dating is a process of elimination, girls. Like, and if some guy tells you that he can't hang with you, see ya later. Bye. Peace out. Next dude. Let's go. Move on. But it was a light bulb switch of having value for yourself, right? And having a standard for yourself. And to be able to figure out a way to create self-worth, self-value, self-respect, so that you can go out there and not have to worry about anybody else's opinion, because you know you put in the time, you know you put in the work, you know you put in the hustle, you know you put in the questioning, the doubting, and all the processing and all that stuff. But you know what? At the end of the day, you realize that, hey, when you're uncomfortable, you're only halfway there, and that you're more valuable than you ever thought.
100%.
And I'd also tell the kids, like, look around. Like, it's like, you see those like 10 vehicles out there in the parking lot, and it's like you see those businesses, and man, let's look way back there. You can see some churches and stuff like that. Let's imagine the value of all of that. Like, right now, it's like that car's like 100,000. It's like probably like 1.5 million. Like, let's add it up, like 75 million. They're like, geez, yeah, that's probably a lot of money. I'm like, you're more valuable. And they're like, huh? I'm like, you're more valuable. And I was like, I truly believe that. And I believe that about my clients and the people that I work with, and my kids and my wife. They're more valuable. You're all more valuable. I believe it. And the moment that you believe it about yourself is the moment that you're going to carry yourself around differently. You're going to talk the talk because you're walking the walk. And it's going to be a different BroFit. It'll be a different PR. It'll be a different whoever it is, right? Because they have the confidence and they have the self-respect. They know what their value is. So to me, the value was huge. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, no, man, and I completely agree with you. It's all of us. I think all of us get to that point in our life where we think we know what we're capable of what our value is, of like who we really are. And as life goes on, we get put in these situations that we surprise ourselves, and we're like, what? Like, we didn't expect to react like that. We didn't expect that to happen. We didn't. And it's just things that little by little, the more that it happens, the more that time goes on, we start learning more about ourselves. And that's the thing I think that helps with all this, whether it's working out, trying new things, putting yourself out there, speaking to people, sharing, being more vulnerable. you're not gonna know unless you just do more stuff. Just stop closing yourself off. Speak to more people, share more, post more. You know, you don't have to go for trying to be the number one podcaster or streamer or fitness person or card breaker or collector or any of that shit. It's just put yourself out there, because you never know. Maybe you might connect with someone else who really needs to hear your story, like, or someone who just feels alone. And then once they hear your story, they understand that they're not alone. Like, it's things like that that I'm a big believer in. And that's why I'm always trying to tell people, like, you don't have to have this big platform or nothing, but just reach out to people, talk to people. If you feel like someone is sharing something that you can relate to and that you can add some value to in any way to their life, yo, reach out to them. People are not on here posting shit just to fucking post it, especially when it comes to something personal or emotional. It's as I hope like this doesn't deter anyone from doing so if you do it, but it's a cry for fucking help. Someone is asking for help, even if it's an indirect post where they're being a smart ass and they're talking shit about an ex, or if it's something about their job or their friends or the people they're around or their life, and like, oh, my life sucks. Those are little subtle things of people in their own way, like just being like, yo, is anybody out there listening? Can you relate? You know what I mean? I'm a strong believer in that. And I feel like instead of just scrolling past it, ignoring it, or just saying, haha, that's fun. Like, yo, just try to have a real conversation with that person and see if they're all right. Like the other day, it really got to me too when I was talking to Ryan and everything. And then we got off and he stayed on for a little bit and we just talked. And he literally was like, yo, like, how are you? And like, it always gets to me with people because I don't have anybody ever in my life that actually like, yo, you all right? Are you happy? Are you good? And when people say that to me, and even if I don't know, like it gets to me so hard, because it's like I've never had that. I've never had someone, especially that I don't know, like show that they care or that they're interested, or and it gets to me. And then what really gets to me is like, yo, this is a person that I don't even know from a hole in the wall, and they're more interested, and they show that they care more than my own flesh and blood or my family or the people that I see every day. Like, and it's just crazy. It's mind-blowing. And it just goes to show that I didn't get to talk to you or to Ryan or to all these people in these communities just because of the fact that he goes right there. How's it going, Ryan? He jumped in the chat right now as we're speaking about you. And it just goes to show that all you had to do was just tune in or just reach out and respond to a comment or respond to a post or something. And it really, you don't know what those things can start, what they can ignite, the relationships you can start to build with people. And I just believe if people just took more advantage of this social media stuff, this streaming stuff in a positive way, where we all just listen to each other, share our thoughts, ideas, our stories, our advice, you know what I mean, and focus more on helping each other and focus more on the similarities that we all have instead of the differences, like it'll go a long way, man. And with all that being said, I know that we've been streaming right now for like an hour and 20 minutes. I want to give a shout out real quick to everyone who's chilling with us in the chat. We have Ryan Turner, who was with us last night. Make sure that you go and give him a follow, as well as show some love to V Dads and Food is Fuel. We have Ellie, who's chilling with us on YouTube, Knock Show on Twitch. Who else do we have in here? I'm going through the chat right now. Soggy came and chilled with us. Then we have B1, who came and hung out with us for a bit also. Bar Locker was chilling with us earlier in the chat. Thank you all so much for the love and support. I truly appreciate it. And once again, thank you, BroFit, Brian, Coach Brian, for coming by and giving us some wisdom and sharing a little bit about yourself. But before we get out of here, I wanted to get some final thoughts on you. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us and our listeners about fitness, about your fitness journey or your experiences? And is there any advice that you could give someone who is just starting out on their own fitness journey?
Be genuine. Be yourself. Know that struggles in the process is what makes the outcome beautiful. For example, a book that looks beautiful on the outside with no substance is not really a book. So I don't really care what's necessarily on the outside. I care what's going on the inside, especially when it comes to a physical connection with movement. All of our stories are different. We're at different chapters of the book. So really the question is how do you want your book to end? Because we're not at the end of it. We might, for some of us, we might be just at the very beginning and haven't even yet started. For some of us, we might be in the middle, right? But how do we want that book to end? To me, I want some good substance in there. I want the good stuff. I want to find the emotional stuff. I want to find the difficulties. I want to see some of the challenges. I want to see some of the relationships or the romance. I want to see some of the hardship. I want to see some of the chaos. I want to see some of the simplicity and calmness. I want to see anything that a book or that a beautiful story can bring. I want that to be brought out in our fitness journey, if that makes sense. So don't worry about what has happened already, but know that your story is unique, that it's important, that it has value, and that you get to dictate right now what's left written in that book. So I don't know. That's what I got for you.
I love it. I agree with you, man. We all got to work on what we're trying to do and what we're going to do with those final pages in our book, man. It's up to us. It's our life. And how do you want your life story to end? Do you want it to be this epic conclusion, or is it just going to end with a blank page, you know, and a cliffhanger? Or, you know, let's end it on a good note, everyone. So with that, I want to say thank you, everyone, for coming in and chilling with us and kicking it in the chat. I truly appreciate all the love and support. Thank you, BroFit, for coming and giving me your time and stopping by. I truly appreciate it. And as always, everyone, if you would like to go and learn more about BroFit and what he's doing and check out some of his live streams, I did post the links to his accounts, his Twitch, his X, and his Instagram in the chat. But if you are watching or listening to this episode, I will also have all his social media links in the description of this episode of wherever you're listening to this podcast episode of Clocking Out. So be sure to go and show Brian some love. And yes, I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great night. Stay safe. Peace.